Longview Community Bank, Illinois Corn Marketing Board, State Bank of Bement, and Macon County Farm Bureau.
Your friend in Central Illinois. WHOW.
Top of the morning. Thanks for being with us. I'm your host today, Seth Lawrence. The WHOW Morning Show streams to Facebook and YouTube. Brought to you by Peterson Insurance, your Pekin Insurance agent in Clinton. My guest on the Zoom today, Ed Shimon at the National Weather Service in Lincoln. Good to see you, Ed. How you doing?
Doing great. Thanks for having me on, Seth.
For sure. Always appreciate you coming on. And Ed, what in the world, man? I mean, you came on here a few weeks ago and you said Apple and Pork weekend was going to be fantastic. The weather was ideal, and you turned up the heat. What are you doing over there?
Well, yeah, we actually the sun decided to push a little bit more heat our way. Yeah, it was really hot. It was abnormally hot. Sorry about that. I know we a little overachieved. We always try to make it a little warmer for those folks, but we hit the on button a little too long.
What happened there? But in all seriousness, what happened there, Ed? It was warm for a good stretch. How about that?
Yeah, we got under a heat dome that's typical of a summertime pattern. I mean, we were seeing temperatures that we normally would see in July, in September. So it just really pushed us, near record highs in some days. That heat dome that can build out in the west, if it just shifts a little bit, later in the summer and early fall, you can get some really, really warm temperatures. And in September, even near the end of the month, our record highs sometimes can creep up near 100 because the air is drier. So that September air mass being dry, you can get the spikes up to the 90s and even near 100 because drier air warms and cools much more quickly than humid air. So in some cases, we had the highest temperature of the whole summer or whole year so far in September. I think Lincoln did that because our air temperatures in the humidity days of July and August didn't climb that high, but the humidity level made it heat index of 115.
Sure.
So,
yeah.
Yeah.
And the one thing I noticed in that stretch there, Ed, was one, it wasn't so humid. That probably has a lot to do with the crop coming out of the ground and just it has dried out.
Yeah.
But the other thing was that it was very tolerable in the shade. Like if you could find some shade, it was really very pleasant though, that stretch. Even though it was warm outside, you found some shade, you felt pretty good.
Correct. Yeah, that's the beauty of dry heat, like they say in the Southwest, it's a dry heat. Well, that's why if you get in the shade out of that direct beating sun, you really can, cool down much more quickly, even just with a little bit of a breeze. It makes a difference.
Well, it moved off. Of course, some rain rolled through Monday night into Tuesday morning, and now we are really kind of into the fall stretch here, it feels like. Just tell us about that front that moved through and cooled things off.
Sure, yeah, we actually got some helpful rains. It wasn't enough to break the drought, but some areas inch and a quarter of rain with that cold frontal passage. Myself, I got just shy of 3/4 of an inch, but I'm in Peoria. So it was not everywhere got it. It was hit or miss in terms of those, 1 inch amounts, but still, I put it out a little bit of rain, kind of keep the ground from really turning into complete dust out there. So, and then once that moved through, we had a noticeable temperature difference. About 20 degrees cooler here we've been the last day or so, and today's going to be probably our coolest day of all of the whole week. Right around upper 60s mainly here today.
Yeah. So cold front is in. Let's talk a little bit, Ed, about the days ahead today, Friday, and give us the weekend forecast.
Sure. Yeah, we're going to stay comfortable right around normal. I mean, we'll be in the low 70s here tomorrow, Saturday, and Sunday. Really just a banner weekend. Not overly windy. Sunday will probably be our windiest day. We'll have some gusts 15 to maybe 20 out of the southeast, but lows will be a little chilly like tonight. It'll be low 40s, which, that's definitely jacket weather. You don't want to go outside. I went out to run this morning in short sleeves, and I was like, well, might want a long sleeve today. But, and then over the weekend, we're going to see lows, upper 40s, around 50. So not quite as cold. I mean, we don't expect any frost really conditions. Tonight would have been our big night for frost, but that's not going to happen. It's just going to be a little too warm. So, but very banner next 3 days.
Perfect. What you like to hear? Maybe some frost to the north. Our friends in maybe Wisconsin, southern Canada area.
Yes, yeah. There you're going to see, the 30s and maybe even some freezing conditions there. Yep.
Sure. Gotcha. And that's the other thing. I going back to that heat, that was the wild thing about that heat was, we'd see temperatures in the 50s in the overnight. And then, you wake up and by 11 o'clock noon, you're into the upper 70s and 80s. So it warmed up pretty quick during that stretch because it cooled off quite a bit in the overnights.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's kind of like your desert conditions. You'll be 105 in the day and then down in the 40s at night. That dry air the air quickly changes to conditions once there's no more surface heating. That's occurring.
You gave us the weekend, Ed. Let's get through the next week or two here, and maybe some of the outlooks for the 8-14 day outlooks. What do we have? What's coming up here across the area?
Sure, the Columbus Day holiday looks to be our warmest day actually of the next week or so, up to 79, maybe near 80. Really nice day, sunny. I know I didn't really mention it. There is a cold frontal boundary going through Friday. We could see some afternoon and evening showers in the area. Nothing really heavy. I mean, if you see 1/10 of an inch of rain out of that Friday night cold front, that's about it. But you'll probably mainly just see cloud cover and maybe some virga in the area where it just means rain that's released from the clouds. It doesn't hit the ground. But, that's our one little wiggle of maybe some sprinkles Friday night there. But otherwise, like Columbus Day, almost near 80, sunny. The next day, sunny and 78. Wednesday, sunny and 76. It's a kind of a broken record the rest of those days. And looking beyond that, our 8-14 day or 6-10 day, which goes all the way to the 18th. Much above normal temperatures expected again, near normal precipitation with a tip towards below normal. And then as we look even further into that 2-week outlook all the way to the 22nd, above normal temperatures are highly favored and just near normal precip, which would be just we get around 1/10 of an inch of rain a day at this time of the year.
Sure.
Or so. So, in that 2-week time frame, maybe inch and a half of rain, but really not expecting that much. So we'll have to see. I think the 18th or 19th I see in the models some kind of a heavier rain hitting. Finally, that would be our big day of really some moisture hitting the ground. Yeah, it looks like that Sunday the 19th. There's a low pressure system tracking right across Illinois, and that looks actually pretty decent for an inch in a widespread area. So. But it's going to take a while. That's a while away.
Yeah, sure.
Before that, not much at all until that weekend.
Interesting. What are normals for temperatures this time of the year, Ed? Because you said above normal, but then I'm looking. We're talking the temperatures I'm seeing are 70, 75 maybe. What's a normal temperature for this time of the year?
Right now we're in the upper 60s for normal highs. So and then the lows are in the mid 40s, low to mid 40s.
Okay.
Yeah. So, if you hit 70s, you're above normal now for highs.
Okay.
And the further above 70 you get, then by the end of the month, our normal high is 59. So,
yeah. And
this outlook went to the 22nd, which is the normal high of 63.
Right.
So upper 60s, around 70 is 6 to 7 above normal, which is a lot. When you get into the fall, it doesn't feel warm, but above normal now this time of year is really comfortable. It's not like, holy cow, it's hot out here, I got to change my plans. Above normal this time of year is just a real comfortable fall day, really.
There you go. That's good to hear for sure. What's the rest of the month look like, Ed? You kind of took us to that 18, 19 time frame. Take us maybe all the way to the 31st. And what can we maybe anticipate for Halloween yet? Still too early to think about it. What do you know?
Yeah, the above normal temperature trend starts fading a little. The last 2 weeks of the month, all the way through the end, it's above normal, but it's only in that 33 to 40 percentile, tip the balance toward above normal. Precipitation wise, there's no real signal there. It's kind of equal chances of being above or below normal there. Another 1.5 inches of rain or so in that 2 week time frame possible there. But Halloween at this point is not looking too bad, really. One year we had 3 or 4 inches of snow in Peoria this Halloween morning. I had my snow blower out. I was blowing half leaves and half snow.
I remember that
on Halloween morning.
Yep.
I was like, "What is this?" My leaf blower turned into snowboard turned into a leaf blower.
Yep.
So, but anyway, yeah, it doesn't look like anything like that. There's no real cold snaps. A couple of low pressures move across just north of us, and there's like a little bit of snow showing up in Canada, but really nothing impactful cold wise. So Halloween, knock on wood, should be in the normal range, with some 60s for highs and low 40s for lows.
Sure. It's going to be when the leaves start falling. They've fallen in some places, but when they like my trees are still pretty green. When the leaves finally do fall, it sounds like it'll be nice and dry to get those raked to the curb or into the truck and off to the landfill. Right.
Yeah. Correct. Yeah. But nothing significant at this point. Making them all that wet at this point. So
yeah, sure. Well, Ed, in terms of you mentioned temperatures, precipitation to finish out the month doesn't look anything crazy or extreme. Anything of note as we work our way through October? You mentioned we started pretty warm. We're well above normal for right now. But do you foresee? I guess what do you foresee in terms of where we end up based off the models and projections right now?
Yeah, right now, I know we talked before we got on air, but for the month of October so far, we're at 67.7 degrees average temperature for the whole month, and the number one overall warmest October is 64.7. So we're 3 degrees above normal, and seeing the outlook, we probably end up close to the top 10, if not in the top 5 of warmest, because number 5 is 60.3 average temperature for the month. I know we're going to have some cooler nights, a few times, but boy, I can't see us really cooling off enough to not be in the top 10 warmest Octobers at this point, seeing where we're at right now. I mean, we started off the month off the charts. So, and then wetness, we're really still dry. We only have like a 1/4 inch of rain here, which is well behind normal. Let me see what that puts us at we're below normal about 0.62.
Yeah, I was gonna say I wanted to get to the drought on the other side of the break. Do you foresee frost at some point in October?
We usually see a couple of nights of frost where we're mid 30s is frost. Anything below 38 degrees on the sensors, which are at 6 feet, you can have a drop of 4 to 5 degrees between the sensor and where the ground is. Sometimes it's that dramatic. Wow. So we always have to try and introduce the words of frost anytime we're forecasting 35, 36, 37. And yeah, that's pretty likely. We'll see by the end of the month, there's going to be some frost advisories maybe, because normal lows by the end of the month, 37, which is a normal frost night. So
got it.
You can definitely plan for that. If you got some plants outside, have some ideas if you want to throw some sheets over them or, keep them protected if you want them to keep viable through the end of the month. Have a little plan in place.
Very good. On that note, Ed, let's take a break here. Come back with some more. Ed Shimon, National Weather Service in Lincoln, is my guest on the Zoom. More to come with Ed on the morning show.
WHOW.
Mark 30. Mark 15. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5.
Let's check the opening numbers now at the Chicago Board of Trade on this Thursday. Jim Taylor, RFD Radio Network. Corn and beans opening today lower, wheat slightly higher. December corn 421.5 down half a penny. March corn 437 down 3/4, and May corn 445 down 1 1/4. November beans starting today 1023 3/4 down 5 3/4. January beans down 5.5, 1038 3/4.
Closeout time is here for a new Chevrolet. This is Scott Baum from Baum Chevrolet Buick in Clinton and Farmer City. Yes, we have a good selection of 25 Silverados remaining in regular and crew cab models with gas or diesel engines. Some with utility beds and dual rear wheels. Also see our remaining Colorados, Trailblazers, even our full-size Suburban and Tahoes, all priced to move out. See our 25 inventory today at bombchevybuick.com, right from the start.
Looking for a seed buying experience that's more humanized? Ready to trade a company that's oversized for an independent brand that's right-sized? Searching for elite hybrids that have been optimized, tested in your geography, and localized? Did we run out of words that rhyme, so now we have to use metaphysicized? Maybe so. But if you answered yes to any of these questions, then it's probably time you get Wiffleized. Choose Wiffles hybrids this season, and let's get familiarized.
Your friend in Central Illinois, WHOW.
Once again, a good morning. Thanks for being with us. I'm your host today, Seth Lawrence. The WHOW Morning Show streams to Facebook and YouTube, brought to you by Peterson Insurance, your Pekin Insurance agent in Clinton. My guest on the Zoom today, Ed Shimon, National Weather Service in Lincoln. Ed, how dry is it out there right now?
It is really seriously dry. I mean, it's definitely affecting, even I heard on the radio on the way in, Decatur, Lake Decatur is like 3 to 4 feet below normal. So they're voluntary water, if you don't have to use it, don't water, it's not water restriction time yet, but boy, we are really, really low on soil moisture, and even aquifers and water sources are starting to get a little low.
Well, and I wonder, Ed, I've been talking to farmers for our harvest reports this year, and it's interesting because some guys tell me, yeah, we haven't gotten hardly anything, particularly north. I think of like a McLean County area. Some guys in northern McLean County have told me they've hardly gotten anything. Then you go down to Macon County, and then it's really hit and miss. One guy will tell me, "Oh, we got plenty. We're good." Another guy will tell me, "Yeah, I didn't really get that much. My crop survived, but we really didn't get a whole lot." Is it that varied across some areas, or is it just dry across the board because we've just not seen substantial rain for so long?
Yeah, overall, the vast majority are hurting in terms of soil moisture content. Some spots did get some beneficial rains, just hit or miss. And, a few of those are, able to say, hey, my area is not too bad. But overall, looking at Dr. Trent Ford, the state climatologist's last report on the drought, we are definitely getting to some critical levels. We're at D2, which is severe drought. There's 2 more levels of drought beyond that. But, it's definitely impactful. It's not that, just a little bit abnormally dry. We're getting that higher impact level of the drought this time.
Mm-hmm. Now, do I remember right? We tend to make up a lot of our moisture, for lack thereof, in the wintertime. Or is wintertime the driest time? I'm trying to remember which it was.
Wintertime is still dry. If we have a warmer wintertime period where we don't get that frost depth, then we can get anything that falls can melt and go right into the soil and be beneficial. If we get that 5-6 inch frost depth and it stays for a while, then it's really hard to get any replenishing moisture into the ground because everything really just runs off at that point.
Got it.
So the longer we can stay without a frost depth, the more beneficial. But in the wintertime, those are some of our lowest moisture producing months in general.
Mm-hmm.
Because a lot of the precipitation falls as snow and you don't get those really heavy rains most of the time. So
Yeah. Well, remind us the precipitation outlooks, for the rest of October, and let's get into November. But I had a farmer tell me yesterday he's going to be done with harvest in the next 10 days because he's just been able to be out there so much. It's been so dry. They've made great use of the daylight. What's the next few months look like in terms of precipitation, Ed? Could we see a reprieve?
Yeah, when I look at the whole month of October, that monthly outlook, boy, it pegs us as below normal precip, in that 40th to 50th percentile. So it does not look like, maybe that 19th of October event is going to really keep us, push us towards normal at all. So I think we're probably going to end up below normal, maybe an inch or so, if not more, for the month of October. Looking beyond that, they kind of tip the balance toward equal chances for the let's see, it's October, November, December timeframe, so all the way into the first month of winter, equal chances. But below normal precip is just south of Illinois and all the way into the Central Plains. So the only thing we're going to really be seeing is maybe if we get a couple of lows out of Canada periodically to give us some rain, but it's not looking good like we're really going to be above normal on any of the months of that next 3-month outlook.
Oh, wow.
At this point. So
yeah.
Yeah.
And I wonder, Ed, obviously we need to replenish, but do we continue to lose moisture through the winter if we don't get any? It dries out quick in the summer, I presume because of the heat and all the sun that shines on the earth at this time. Do we lose that much moisture though in the wintertime? Like if we don't replenish, are we still losing a lot?
We're not losing nearly as much. A lot of the moisture loss is with that heat, the beating of the sun, and sun angle is much lower in the wintertime. And you don't heat the ground up to get that air to release. And the windy conditions also just sap moisture out of the soil too. But if it's colder and lower sun angle, you can lose some because of the wind, depending on the windy days. But if you get a frost, then no way, you're not losing any moisture at that point.
Yeah. Are we going to see much in the way of wind over the next month or so?
Nothing is jumping out as really, intense winds at this point. No. I know we've had some really windy times this year, but fall does have windy days. I've had some really, because the low pressure systems start getting stronger, so there's going to be windy days in there, especially, in the fall, we'll have a day where a big cold front will go through and we'll have 40-mile-an-hour winds take our leaves into the next county, so plan on some windy days. It's a typical thing in Illinois, with those low pressure systems. So
a lot going on, Ed. Very quickly, I got about 30 seconds. Any awareness campaigns or educational things that Weather Service is pushing right now?
Yeah, September was preparedness month, and we always want people to be ready for severe weather. So don't put that book away. Severe weather can pop up in the fall time, and and as snow starts falling, driving conditions can really get bad quickly. So keep both those in mind going forward here.
Ed, always good to talk to you. Where do folks go for all things weather information?
Weather.gov/Lincoln.
Ed, thanks for joining us. Always a pleasure. Ed Shimon, National Weather Service in Lincoln, our guest on the Zoom. Network News on the way.